video, we'll take a dedicated look at all the professional teams in Atlantic City. That's right, there was a bunch of professional teams. And we're going to start off in the 1880s with Atlantic City. That was the name of the team, and it was a baseball team called the Wilmington Blue Hens of Wilmington, Delaware. Now, they relocated and represented Atlantic City in the Eastern League for just 1 year. The team was managed by Joseph Flanders, and it's only 1 year, at least puts it on this list for a brief period of time. It wasn't until the 1910s we saw Atlantic City back on the map for baseball. The 1912 to 1913 season was a different team, but they played in the Tri-State League. They were relocated from Ohio in June 1912. The management was John Castle, and the record went 44-33, standing 4th place their first year. In 1913, they had a record of 42-73, standing 6th place. After that, it was disbanded after the 1913 season, ending professional baseball in Atlantic City until we crack Giants in 1916 to 1929. Well, really 1934. They had a couple jump years there, missing a year. One of the most famous teams in Atlantic City, the Backrack Giants, which played in a Black League baseball team. They played and won 2 consecutive pennants, 1926 and 1927. The team was named after the sponsor of Atlantic City's mayor, Larry Backrack. Now, there was some changes that we saw in the 1930s, moving us away from baseball. The Atlantic City Seagulls were formed, an ice hockey team taking place in 1932 to 1942. It was the first professional ice hockey team in Atlantic City, playing in the Tri-State Hockey League and later in the Eastern Hockey League, the EHL. In the 1940s, we saw the same thing, really, the Hockey League, 1947 to 1952. So they did skip, it looks like, over 5 years there. Now, this was the second Hockey League, but the same name was still there. The Seagulls team competed in the Eastern Hockey League. Now, all their games were at Boardwalk Hall, so it made it a very exciting day out for the locals and people attending hockey. Now, the growth of hockey continued early 1950s when it was phased out in 1952, at least here in Atlantic City. That's when we saw a new sport venture its way out. That is in the 1960s. The Atlantic City Senators were formed. Now, the Senators were a team that played in the Atlantic City Coast Football League. This was in 1966, and they played their home games in Bayard Field, which is the old airport. Now, the Senators was coached by Jack Colts and had assistants like Bobby Walters. I don't know any of them. However, I do know Bayard Field. You can see it right there. And it would be pretty cool to have a professional, or I guess semi-professional football team. Let's move over to the 1980s, where we have the High Rollers. That was a professional basketball team in 1980 to 1982. The High Rollers were a member of the Continental Basketball Association. They were also known as the Wildwood High Rollers. This was an American basketball team in Atlantic City, but later in Wildwood, New Jersey. Playing their first season in Atlantic City, the team's president announced that the High Rollers would move part of their 1981 and 1982 season to the Wildwoods Convention Center there in Wildwood. Now, this did kind of switch it up, but it's still, in my opinion, a professional team that is in Atlantic City, even though they got 1 year in. Their first game was in Wildwood, and it was well attended compared to their games into Atlantic City. And the team later announced that they would be moving permanently to Wildwood by the end of the season in 1982. So it was a pretty cool season. Nonetheless, the one time they did, playing 2 seasons total. Keep basketball close to us here in Atlantic City, because back in the 1990s, which was the next professional team to pop up, we saw the Atlantic City Seagulls. That was a basketball team that opened for play in 1996 to 2000. We did see him pop up again in 2021. Now, this team played for the United States Basketball League and won a championship in 1997. They were known for their connection for multiple future NBA players that season. Now, they also were known for driving on the boardwalk on a championship parade, which is pretty cool to even see that happening in Atlantic City. I kind of forget that they had sports teams back then. Nevertheless, the Seagulls really did make a name for themselves when they were playing and winning multiple championships. It really was a local favorite, but honestly, I don't think there was any more of a local favorite than the Atlantic City Surf baseball team, which we saw take place in 1998, first opening. This was an independent league baseball team. The Atlantic City Surf's home games were at the Sandcastle, now called Surf Stadium, and they won their Atlantic League championship in 1999. Things were amazing when this first started. Opened in 1998, win a championship in 1999. The next year, you would think there would be a bright future here for the Atlantic City Stadium and Bates Field, but that was not the case. Things soon took a turn. It was in 2008 we saw a decline in actual people attending the game and resulting in eventually the Surf pulling out. Now, we might dedicate a video just to that, but right now we're just going to focus on the next group of professional teams that embarked on this beautiful city we call Atlantic City. Those teams, well, we have the Bullies. Now, I think at Bullies, you can make the argument this was the prime time for Atlantic City professional sports when the Bullies came into play. This was a franchise that relocated from Alabama, and they relocated in 2001, where they were originally known as the Birmingham Bulls, shortly changing their name to the Boardwalk Bullies, not too far off from what they were originally called. Now, they operated into 2005 and again ended up at the Boardwalk Hall, the beautiful venue itself. And I tell you what, you can make the argument that this was the prime time for Atlantic City sports. Look at all those people in the background. Now, hockey's always been a really tight grip on the city itself. But after they left, we never really saw it again, because quickly we saw the Indoor Football League. That is the Atlantic City Card Sharks. That was in 2004, a member of the Indoor Football League, and they only played for one single season. We saw some other Atlantic City professional teams, but I don't know how quickly I would call them professional teams because, well, technically they're not really in the city, and at that point, but they still call themselves Atlantic City, so we're going to have to put them in there. But this indoor league, I had no idea it even existed in 2004 when I was living in that area as a kid. But if I did, I probably would have went to one. There was no traction there. You can see there's no fans, not much going on there. But moving to the next one, it's a soccer team in Atlantic City, the Diablos. This one I couldn't find much other than they played at St. Augustine's Prep School, which is a high school. So they couldn't have played that long, and it looked like they only played one season there in 2007. Then in the 2010s, we saw soccer again. The Atlantic City Ball Club, which played their games there at the local college, Stockton. You make the argument that that's not really a professional team inside of Atlantic City. But with the college being in the suburbs of Atlantic City, a minor league team like this did sneak on our list. Then we saw another team pop up, the Black Jacks. Football team in 2019 snuck by, I think, all of us, right? I didn't know that this was an indoor arena football team, and they played for one season before folding. And that would have been a cool one to watch. I think there's a lot of potential with an indoor football team if they can hold more than 1 year. But the Black Jacks did not. And their home games there in Boardwalk Hall, a beautiful venue, and coached by Ron James, in 2017 season, only recorded a 4-8 result and ended up in 5th place in their league. Now, none of the players, I could tell off the bat, became much of a professional, and their owners eventually leaving Atlantic City shortly after that year. Then we saw in the 2020s a new team emerge in Atlantic City, the latest of the creations of teams that they've put together. And here we are at a minor league basketball team for 1 year, the Atlantic City Gambits. This team was 2022 to 2023. They were a professional basketball team. They played for 2 seasons, I'm mistaken, in the the basketball league. Now, they announced that they would be playing their home games at the Atlantic City High School Auditorium, which is a high school, which is interesting, but it's a big high school, and that's where the Seagulls actually played, so there's nothing too crazy at the time having a professional team play at a high school, at least for Atlantic City. Now, do you think that we're missing something big here in Atlantic City? Let us know down in the comment section, or put us, which one was your favorite part of Atlantic City sports? There's some great ones. That's going to do it for our video. Keep a lookout for more videos to come.